The Academy is investigating whether Andrea Riseborough's campaign was fair play. Though to be honest, if Gwyneth Paltrow is involved, I'm already a bit suspicious.
Rick Caruso is also nominated for Best Actress. Isn't that too bad?
Welcome to Keep It, Cricket Media's show about pop culture and politics and what happens when they smack into each other at an alarming speed. I'm your host, Ira Madison III, a television writer and Fall Out Boy fan.
I'm Louis Fertel. I'm a TV writer and Jane Fonda historian.
Let's get into it.
Welcome back. You're listening to Keep It. I'm the only host of the show as far as I'm concerned, Louis Fertel, but I do have someone here with me. Say your name.
I'm Ira Madison III. You really leaned into your Sirius XM voice.
Yes. Well, I'm trying to blend in. Sometimes I forget that that's my coworkers. I just asked the people on this feed, I'm like, can I go to like Sirius headquarters and hang out with like Nina Blackwood and the 80s MTV VJs and stuff? No one will tell me anything.
They said no.
No. They're like, you stay in your 2000s TRL block, queen.
They said, doesn't Serena Altschul still have a restraining order against you?
Oh, God. God, that fills me with endorphins to hear that name. All those people. You say Gideon Yago, I'm yelping.
So I was thinking about you yesterday because, not because I know that you typically love dystopian dramas like The Last of Us, which
I'm always watching those things.
About,
yes,
which we've been harassed and harangued to discuss. But the key thing that happened in this past episode of a series I'm enjoying, by the way, I really like it. There was a Linda Ronstadt song, which was a focal point, and we're not going to like spoil things, but also it's a dystopian drama, and the episode was just about the lives of these two gay men who were in a relationship throughout the 20 years that the, infection took over, from 2003 to our current time, 2023. And let me say first, this infection apparently hit like September 26, 2003, and what a time.
I gotta say, first of all, I came out November 2003, so that is a very potent time for me. Like I'm exactly right there. Like I can hear Crazy in Love playing,
Yeah, Crazy in Love is there, and like the movies that came out that weekend were Duplex.
That's what you led with? Wow, Duplex, a movie I have absolutely not thought about. Is that Drew Barrymore?
That's Drew Barrymore and Ben Stiller.
Right. That feels like a pairing I would have said to you, they should do a movie sometime. Then we forget, oh yeah, they did Duplex, a movie that we dared to call Duplex.
I mean, shout out to Drew Barrymore for really sort of revitalizing her career several times over.
No, and by the way, I just want to say, every time I watch a clip of her, like I saw that clip of her as Megan scurrying around Allison Williams. Drew Barrymore is on this planet to prove she is the most demented first grade teacher of all time. And she's getting away from the lesson plan and she's getting into the medicine cabinet.
I think that Bolu Babalola,
yes,
our former guest host, she described it as benevolent Tyra.
Wow, yes. Oh my God, I love that description. Right? Like, that's so true.
There's nothing malicious about it. Like she's not going to harass Beyonce with inane questions. I don't think even Drew would go that far.
That's very good, very good. It's also she's more closely related to like a Kelly Clarkson or something, in that like I'm goofball energy, but Kelly Clarkson, I feel like, is smoking in the teacher's lounge, whereas Drew Barrymore is doing glue stick projects in the teacher's lounge. She's committed to being a first grade teacher. She's very
she's Janine Teagues.
Yeah, she's in Billy Madison. She's Miss Lippy. That's her. Yeah.
That wasn't Billy Madison. Okay, I was thinking of Jack.
Oh God, what? Why were you doing that? Why were you doing that? Francis Ford Coppola, I'm sorry you were invoked.
I love if someone discovered that he directed that movie online the other week and they were startled.
Again, when you look at Francis Ford Coppola's 70s works and then he moves into the 80s, now the Cotton Club we love, but it really starts to fucking fall apart then. One from the Heart or whatever with Terry Garr. Anyway, moving on.
She had debts.
I get she sure did. And she's about to get more with this megalopolis shit.
So The Last of Us.
Yes.
This episode, and actually what I kind of really loved about this episode is it introduced a different element to the series, right? It's the idea that you are going to be getting other stories of what happened during that 20-year gap. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's very lost sort of in that respect. It's just sort of like any episode can be about anything, and you're also still going to be following the main story. And
Right.
this story was about Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett in a relationship for 20 years.
One of the fuzziest gay couples ever to be on television. I mean, it was Fuzzy Wuzzy. Fuzzy Wuzzy was here. Yes.
It was, honestly, I felt like it was justice for Looking's cancellation.
It sure was. It sure was. It was very sweet. In a way, I almost felt too prepared for it. Like people had told me online there was like a gay storyline, and based on the intense reaction, I knew it would be like sensitive and loving and stuff. That said, once I finally watched it, and by the way, this is not a show
That's
I'm
for
attracted to. Yeah, no, like nothing about zombification or dystopians, anything. Like my favorite dystopian movie is Testament with Jane Alexander, which is from the 80s. I've talked about it 1,000 times. Go watch it. But that is very rare for me to watch. But in this episode, yeah, it was sweet. Do you know what it reminded me of? Have you seen the movie Bill Nye is nominated for at the Oscars, Living?
I have not.
Okay.
But I will need to.
It's one of these movies where he finds out he's dying. This is not a spoiler. And it's about like finding like the dignity in the end of life or whatever. And that is sort of the sentiment here. And I appreciate that. I just personally, for me, disagree. If I'm near the end of my life and things are going awry, I mean, you know, to borrow a term that Beyonce did bring back to the mainstream, I'd be going ape shit. I'd be doing crazier things. It wouldn't be about dying well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I found the episode overall very sweet. You know, it was, someone described it as gay men's San Junipero.
Right. Yes. Which what was an awesome episode. I think I like San Junipero a little better, actually. But
Yeah, I mean, I do love this trend of we only get lovely, sweet, moving gay stars as one-offs in sci-fi series.
Or even it reminds me of on the Versace show. There was the episode with this is not the same vein, but it's like the Judith Light episode.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you get these kind of pull-out stories that fit into this larger, grislier context and make them sweeter somehow.
Which is sort of maybe, you know, it's a backdoor way of telling these stories since the regular ones get canceled.
Right. Yes, you're right. It's subversive. And
Yeah.
well, and also it's all the more sweeter because you aren't expecting them at all. Nothing about this episode was foretold in the one before it or the one before that.
Right. And there were some reviews where people thought, you know, it was a bit manipulative. And I'm like, yeah, that's, for one thing, like, drama's manipulative anyway. And it was a bit saccharine, but I will say that I enjoyed it nonetheless. You know?
No, saccharin's good every once in a while. My friend who is obsessed with video games, JM Sidsina, told me it differs from the video game a lot, where I guess one of the characters is such a dick that the other one kills himself. So they found a completely new track for these people, like a new sensitive, interesting, not harrowing track for them. But regarding Linda Ronstadt, yeah, so there's a song of hers featured in the episode, Long Time, which great song to pick out. Immediately when you hear that, her voice is so amazing. The melody is so memorable. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying this will lead to a full Linda Renaissance a la Kate Bush. That said, if you dig in even slightly, if you just get the greatest hits of Linda Ronstadt, banger after banger. The one thing I always thought she was kind of lacking in her career was like enough signature songs. Like she did great versions of standards, and like eventually she went into all sorts of different other types of music that she mastered. But in terms of like songs that are just for Linda Ronstadt, it always felt like she had like 10 less than she should. But if you get that greatest hits package, you will be super satisfied. I think people miss music sounding that pure, personally.
They do. I mean, I went back last night to one of my favorites of hers, which was her cover of You're No Good. Dee Dee Warwick's
signature,
original.
yes. Yeah.
It's a great voice. Sad that she doesn't have it anymore.
No, it's incredibly sad. I mean, like just an astonishing career, though. Somebody who was like, God, I'm so bored. What if I picked a completely different genre that no one would ever expect me to do? And then she would go and master that too. I mean, she's like one of these wizard people.
But it brings to mind, mentioning San Junipero, I think that all these episodes too, and what a good TV show or like moment does like this, right? Is it takes a song, sort of a nostalgic song, but not one that it helps if it's not one that's overplayed.
Totally, yes.
And it sort of like hooks you. I mean, I'm actually shocked that San Junipero's Total Eclipse of the Heart was so meaningful, because I feel like you hear that song all the time.
I mean, Bonnie Tyler trends every time there's an eclipse. She points it out herself. She's like, oh, she's like, why am I? She's like, oh, I'm just waking up. What's going on? Everyone's talking about me. Oh, it must be the fucking supermoon or whatever. I know nothing about astronomy.
By the way, I was at Flaming Saddles in New York this past weekend. RIP the LA one.
Yes.
The BPM on Holding Out for a Hero.
Oh yeah,
goes off.
The Coke 80s is a distinct playlist.
That was on the radio.
Yeah. No, Gloria by Laura Branigan is the definitive cokey 80s lady pop song, but Holding Out for a Hero, I mean, you can work out to that.
So that, Running Up That Hill, obviously from Stranger Things, but also I was sort of hooked back on that song when it appeared in the first season of Pose, too, when it was...
I love how they used it on that show. Yeah. It became the signature song that when India Moore appeared for Evan Peters. Yeah.
Yeah. What song would you pick in like a devastating queer love story?
That should come back. Let's see. Well, somebody I think that still could use a real renaissance is Tracy Chapman. Because I think when you hear her, immediately you have to stop and you have to listen.
She did other things besides hang out in that car.
I mean, you obviously had Give Me One Reason, but when she performed Talking About a Revolution on Seth Meyers, I think it was right by the Biden election. I mean, I would love to hear that. I mean, she has lots of great songs, telling stories.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the Tori Amos songs online.
Please. Oh, God, I mean, where do you even begin? I mean, Tori Amos is one of these people where among all her feats, one of my favorite things about Tori Amos. Do you remember when VH1 used to have the show Storytellers?
Yes.
Okay, so you'd go on and you'd perform your hits in this sort of environment where you're sitting on like a quote unquote ethnic Pier 1 carpet, and people are gathered around you and you answer what your songs are about. Tori Amos, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but someone would be like, oh God, what is, Cornflake Girl about? She'd be like, a little old woman was sitting on a bench chomping on an apple.
He looked at me and said, "You've never had good wine." And I went, "Oh my God, how do you know?" And he was just like, "I can just tell. It like oozes from you. You just don't know it." And I went, "Oh."
And it's just like, no, she wasn't. Like, she just went so like fucking bonkers. Like she's so one of a kind.
That's like, did I ever tell you about how I went to the Grammy Museum and saw Ava Max perform, and she described how the song Kings and Queens came about. And she's like, because she's on a date with this guy who's this like LA douchebag guy who's like taking her to this restaurant, like trying to show how much money he has, like, whatever you want on the menu, I'll get it for you. Anything you want. And she's like, I'm not really that hungry, like just a salad, some fries or something. She's like, anything you want. And then she was like, and then I realized I'm no damsel in distress, don't need to save me. I'm like, you did not get that song from that bitch.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, that does seem a bit far-fetched. There are only a couple stories in like pop history where I really believe the origin story because that person clearly wrote the entire song. Like that story of like Michael Jackson being in the car and it's on fire because he's thinking about the bass line of Billie Jean and he gets home and realizes like he's in danger basically. But like, right, that's somebody who would have written that part of the song and then immediately shared it with Quincy Jones. Not to say Ava Max doesn't write any of her lyrics, but it's like the sentiment isn't so original that you had to come up with it arguing for a salad.
Do I believe that Beyonce wrote the
yes,
lyrics
exactly.
to Bootylicious on a plane?
Exactly what I am talking about.
I do.
You need to. It's like Santa Claus.
Because I believe, I don't know if she got the bass line later and found the sample later. I feel like she probably found the sample later, but I definitely believe that she's like, My body's so bootylicious for you, babe. I'm like, that is something you would scribble on a napkin. You know?
I want to know, like, was she listening to like a Discman of Stevie Nicks, or was it like hit clips? I mean, the year's like 2001. You know what I mean?
You know who I would pick for mine? I would pick like "Breathe Again" by Toni Braxton.
Oh, sure. Toni Braxton. I mean, like again, when He Wasn't Man Enough comes on, that's people underestimate. We're in the middle of this Miley Cyrus Flowers moment. Mm-hmm. When you get like a mid-tempo thing that hits just right, like that's sexuality in a pop song. I mean, I think people that's forever.
Case of our specific generation, this song will always be famous at a pregame and afters when you have YouTube on. You will always see He Wasn't Man Enough.
Oh, at least at mine, yeah.
Yeah, but I think she's due for a Renaissance because we sort of had a Tamar got her moment.
Yes,
you know,
and
in pop
and
culture.
Grammy nominations. Yes,
yeah,
underrated Grammy nominated sister duo there.
Yeah, she got her big moment after being, you know, like sort of in Tony's shadow for a bit. But I think that now we're sort of really redue for like a Tony Renaissance, and also Aaliyah's uncle still has Libra under lock.
Does she really? Does he really?
That album was on Black Ground Records.
Right.
It's locked up. But
wow. I mean, like in this age where we're getting this weirdo Amy Winehouse biopic, I mean, like the Aaliyah one's got to be coming.
Yeah. I mean, and not a Lifetime one, right?
No. Oh, please. I mean, I watch those too, but I mean, we need something significant here.
I mean, not to delve too much into, you know, the like creepy, like R. Kelly of it all, right? But like, man, wouldn't Pablo Larraín, wouldn't Aaliyah, like during the R. Kelly marriage, like fit just like right into his sort of oeuvre?
Claustrophobic, lost in a big house thing he loves to do. Yes.
Yeah, you just like hauntingly hear like Age Ain't Nothing But a Number playing on stereos in separate rooms, and every time she goes into a room, though it's not playing.
Right.
Haunting.
And she clings to the Romeo Must Die script. This will get me out of here. Aaliyah, not much of an actress. That's like my take on that. Sorry about that. Great otherwise. Yeah.
Speaking ill of the dead.
To talk about a queen of the damned. Anyway.
All right. So we have a very fun episode this week. Louis and I are going to go head to head over the Andrea Riseborough scandal that has erupted after the Oscar nominations.
I mean, it's the only real Oscar scandal to occur. Well, I guess Will Smith did slap somebody last year, but since like the La La Land Moonlight thing, where there's like some debate to be had about it, I'm thrilled.
I love it. I mean, this is what cinema needs.
Yeah. And also that it's Andrea in the middle of it where people are like, who? And she's like propelled to the fore. Former Keep It guest, Andrea Riseborough.
And then we will get into a slew of new music releases. Ava Max's Diamonds and Dance Floors. We're going to finally decide what her fans are called.
Great.
You will hear it here. And then there's always I feel like there's always uproar over Sam Smith, but currently there's uproar over Sam Smith and their new music video, Not Here to Make Friends, and also their album Gloria is out. So we're going to dig into that whole thing as well, and a lot more. Plus, one of my dear friends, Xosha Roquemore, joins us on Keep It this week.
Born star Xosha Roquemore. I met her once at Akbar like 8 years ago, and you have to like clutch your chest. You're like, oh my God, here it is, Hollywood.
Born star and born name for a star.
Yes. X is the letter. Ask me a goth. X is the letter.
She stole her movie. All right, we'll be right back with more Keep It. So after what is essentially the wildest Oscars campaign since Consider.
Right, which was a pretty significant one, if you remember.
The Academy is investigating whether Andrea Riseborough's campaign was fair play. Though to be honest, if Gwyneth Paltrow is involved, I'm already a bit suspicious.
Rick Caruso is also nominated for Best Actress. Isn't that too bad?
Louis, explain this controversy for our listeners.
Sure. So Andrea Riseborough, who was on this show promoting the movie To Leslie, which when I went to see it, I didn't have any opinion about. I didn't know what it was about. And then I saw it and I was clutching my face like the painting The Scream. Could not believe what I was seeing. She's that amazing. She routinely is. If you've seen, I think she's the only amazing part of Death of Stalin. She gave us an A+ performance in the movie W.E., which, as you know, Madonna directed and then inflicted on the public.
I mean, listen, I know Angelina Jolie is Evelyn Salt, but you will never recognize Andrea Riseborough in any movie she's in.
No, never. She's in Battle of the Sexes. She's in Birdman. I mean, she's like kind of serpentined her way through cinema. And
you see Marin Ireland in a film and think it's her.
Right. Yes, that's another. She's one of those people where she could be somebody else too. So there's that confusion involved. But anyway, she managed to get an Oscars nomination. And basically this nomination came about because, first of all, the wife of the person who directed To Leslie is the actress Mary McCormick. And she was the beginning of this campaign where she emailed people being like, this performance is really good. You know, she happens to be a very connected person, knows a lot of famous people. So that picked up quickly. A bunch of very similarly worded tweets, and I mean the exact same tweet, were shared by people like Mia Farrow, several other actors.
Frances Fisher,
yes.
She was the most vocal, by the way, because Frances Fisher was like responding to people on Twitter too. Just like she was in the trenches for Andrea.
And also, this network picked it up, and eventually Andrea got the Oscars nomination, which upset certain people because, for example, Danielle Deadwyler and Till didn't get a nomination. I personally believe most of the consternation about this issue is from people like publicists and Flax who are on the payroll to get movies like The Woman King nominations, and they failed because Mary McCormick sent out an email. That's what it feels to me. It sucks that Danielle Deadwyler is not among the top 5. I would personally say indisputably she is among the best 5 performances of the year. That said, people acting like anybody is quote unquote owed an Oscar nomination, that is not true. So I felt like there's a little bit of bad faith about that part of the story because Andrea Riseborough is fucking amazing. You would never say she didn't deserve, quote unquote, deserve an Oscars nomination. But it is funny that Frances Fisher, who is, you know, just famous for playing a white lady in Titanic, is at the heart of this scandal because she did the one thing I consider running afoul, which is in her recommendation that people vote for To Leslie. She said, and you don't need to vote for this person, and this person because their Oscar nominations are assured. Well, if you're telling people to vote for one other person, that means they're inevitably going to kick somebody out. So I think that's like really nasty to be like, this person deserves it and then these people don't. And then putting it under the guise of mathematical reasons when it's just you're depriving them of an Oscars nomination.
Also, the idea that Viola Davis was a lock already for an Oscar nomination. Like, have you met the Oscars?
Yeah, right. There's reasons not to vote for that. Also, I will say about that movie, which I thought was really good, and Viola's really good in it. I would describe it as a movie star performance in a above average action movie that felt a little Disney afterwards. So I don't know that it screamed Oscars to me.
Yeah. And listen, people have compared it to like Braveheart and other things. And, you know, if she was a man doing this performance, I'm sure she would have gotten nominated, to be honest.
But like also those also slip through the cracks, like a Tom Hardy in Mad Max, for example.
That's
you know
fair.
what I mean?
But I will also say that like a man being in this book, like the movie wouldn't have ended on its like tender moment either.
Correct. Yeah.
You know? And the awards really still go to like when we look at like best director things, right? Like the awards really still go to like a certain kind of masculine director with this sort of sensibility that's still left over from the like 70s.
Yeah, right. The
70s and 90s.
Harder
era,
means more serious, which usually means more men. Yes.
Yes. But a specific kind, you know, like Cronenberg isn't nominated.
Right. Well, you can't be too weird. Yes.
Yeah. Not too
I
weird.
can't be sitting around wondering what's wrong with you as I watch the movie. We can't vote for that.
He did almost slip in with his non-weird movie, though, A History of Violence.
Yes, right. Which, woof, do I not need to see that again?
Yeah, that was dark. That was bleak.
That's almost as dark as it can go in that kind of prestige filmmaking.
Yeah. Listen, I would say about the Andrea Riseborough controversy, for me, there are two things at play. One, yes, like the Hollywood machine is upset because they put millions into campaigning films and like for dinners and screenings, etc. You know, when like all they had to do was get email sent out and Kate Winslet like hosted like a screening too. You know, like this was grassroots as you can sort of get, you know, with big stars involved. And it's sort of like, why didn't anyone else think to just like email some people, you know? I will say the one argument against that is sort of like if a bunch of like Black people were doing this for like a Viola or for like Danielle, right? Like, would people in the industry see it as sort of like a race thing?
Interesting.
Like all these Black people supporting this Black actor, it's like, oh, we're doing it because they're like a Black actor, you know? Right.
Well, that's interesting. I now I wanted to see it. I want that to happen next year. But
yeah, I feel like it will happen. I feel like everybody's going to be sending an email. Okay, it's going to if you are a voting acting member of the Academy, your email next year is going to be like dodging Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi emails. Okay, just chip in $10.
I mean, I think it's also, I mean, talking about the nature of the To Leslie campaign, I think people really detected that was out of the ordinary, that people weren't just doing this to like, this is their way of participating in the Oscars this year. It's like they were like moving mountains because of this one performance. This was kind of like a not once in a lifetime thing, but like they felt really behooved to do it. So I feel like future campaigns that act in this regard are going to have to suffer in comparison to that because there is a surprise factor about what was happening there. But
campaign finance reform.
Yeah,
let's talk about it.
Again, it's Danielle Deadweiler's performance. I hope more people see. I mean, like I think the deal with that movie is it was marketed poorly. Yeah, personally, you know, I can't think of anybody who heard that performance was amazing, which it is. I mean, we can't stop talking about how great that performance was, and yet I don't feel like I'm hearing people say like, and you have to see that movie still.
And that's sort of like I feel like the marketing that also goes along with, you know, Black films and actresses, and there was a great report, you know, on Black actors and like directors and everything, and just sort of like the dearth of nominations that they've had, particularly because this feels a lot like Clemency all over again, you know?
Right.
Same director too.
Oh no, not a pattern.
She just can't get booked.
Yeah. Alfre Woodard's moment will come. We've done her dirty too long.
But this is also a thing where it's, you know, sort of like you know, do women of color, you know, sort of like divest from the Oscars with their own sort of ceremony. And my thing is, one, I would love it, but my caveat is, yes, we have awards like the BT Awards, you know, we have you know, the GLAAD Awards, you know, like other communities have things that aren't, you know, specifically just catered to like, you know, the white industry. But I would love another awards thing that has a bit of taste. No shade, but, you know, like a GLAAD Award, a BET Award, even a NAACP Image Award, you know, like it all feels a little, you know, like there's room for everyone.
Right. And awards, the best of awards is choosy. Like the reason we care about the Oscars is they leave people out. I mean, that's what makes it good, you know?
Yeah. And creates this controversy. So, you know, I'm like, sure, I would love like a Black award show that's, you know, sort of like elegant and pretty. It sort of like rewards like the best of the best, you know? But that also means that like some people are going to be left out. Right. Not everyone's the best.
And I think within that, not just for the sake of leaving people out, but illustrates a point of view is what you're saying. You know?
Yes.
Like, here's what we think is awesome. And it differs from, you know, this mainstream vision of what success is. And we
look at the GLAAD Awards or something, right? You know, it's like, this is not mainstream films, especially. It's like, just because like there's some gay shit in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's like you won't look at this category and be like, there's no point of view here. There's no like, are all these the same quality?
Right. Like even if you look at like the Oscar Best Picture, like one thing that I think is great this year is that there's really no overlap subject-wise among the Best Pictures. But it also feels like those movies all got nominated because they're just hitting different sectors as opposed to we're evaluating based on quality alone. Like, does anybody really think Elvis is like a 90 plus on Metacritic? I mean, I personally don't. I think that movie's
I loved
a mess.
Elvis though.
Well, okay, you have a clinical issue, and may Lisa Marie rest because I'm getting angry.
I feel like that tends to happen to me with Baz Luhrmann films. Now I'm always like, I love this one, but I'm always like, his past movies are, and I start to reevaluate the past ones, and I'm like, but I love this one. It's bombastic and it's fun, and just that. I'm sure like the next time this next movie comes out, I'll be like, oh maybe Elvis kind of sucked.
Oh, that's interesting. You think they get kind of worse in retrospect? That's the opposite of how I feel about Madonna new projects. Where I remember music coming out and being like, "Oh, this is so hokey. What's this cowboy shit?" 5 years later, I'm like, "Oh, that was pretty rad." You know. Anyway, I don't know why I had to bring up Madonna right there, but
I mean, listen, we need because you wouldn't be a Keep It episode without you bringing up Madonna.
I'm just being me.
Where's that boot camp footage?
Oh my God, I can't. Well, first of all, I can't believe we fucking threw that movie away because imagine watching that movie. That's how I feel. But man, the prep that Julia Garner went through, I'm sure she is like one large sinewy muscle right now.
The stories we would have gotten from set, though.
If they got out, I think that would have been in like a gulag.
Yeah. Wow. So we'll never get a Madonna auto biopic.
No, I'm telling you, Ryan Murphy is going to get there, and I've expressed my actual cautious optimism about that. Yeah. I think he will do it well.
But I think that would be good though. I called it auto biopic before because I think that the idea of an autobiography as a book is fine. You're telling a story. I think an autobiopic, you directing your own story, is a bit all right.
Yeah.
Because there's a little bit more final cut going on here than with like an editor or something else that's in a book where you're also a bit more expansive and really can dig into things. I'm like, who knows what this Madonna story would have been from her eyes.
Right. I just don't picture her having the sure hand of someone like Bob Fosse doing all that jazz where it's like, oh, you picked a fucking zany angle on your own life and it is self-indulgent, but it is also one of a kind. Like, I just don't know that Madonna, I mean,
it's also an indictment of himself.
Right.
In ways. Right. And I do wonder, like, what's going on? What braids soup is happening in Madonna's head right now? Like, how does she remember the 90s?
Right. No, again, I really think she's way too interested in the people she knew once upon a time.
Right. She's like, I knew Tupac.
No, the movie should be called I Knew Tupac. Wait for him to be in this movie. Wait for it. Back to Andrea Riseborough, star of Madonna's W.E. People who don't talk to me about movies normally are coming up to me and saying they love To Leslie. I mean, again, something special is happening with that movie specifically. So honestly, in a way, I think she's a contender for the win because there's such a weird fire beneath that performance now. And Cate Blanchett is now sort of shirking the moment. She gave a speech at the Critics' Choice Awards where she's like called the whole awards process patriarchal. Like it felt not sour grapesy. It just felt like a kind of a buzzkill. So I don't know how people are going to respond to that. It sort of feels like Andrea is on the up and up. Obviously, Michelle Yeoh is still in the picture too.
Well, to Leslie, thanks for everything.
And to Leslie Ann Warren, thanks for everything. What are you doing right now? Loved her on Desperate Housewives, and of course, Victoria.
And now that you bring that up, though, by the way, I was tweeting recently about like how much I miss Desperate Housewives and how much I miss like episodic soap operas.
Sure.
Where
I just, by the way, saw the first 2 episodes for the first time, so I'm finally on the Ira track.
Of Desperate Housewives?
Yes.
What'd you think?
Do you know who I thought was fucking amazing in it? Marsha Cross.
She's great.
She's the perfect casting for that. Like the slightly like alien look she gives everything. It was like constantly funny.
It's like really good. And I miss that era of just like, there's a long continuing story, but they each have like a different story each week. Very Sex of the City-ish too.
Yeah.
Like, I was just thinking about that a lot because I just started Poker Face, which I think is amazing too.
I haven't started it yet. I need to.
But it's great that it's just, it's Rian Johnson, his fucking brain, and the genre shit that he loves. It's very much, it starts out with this big story that Natasha Lyonne is wrapped up in, and then she's on the run, but then solving cases around people that she meets, but it's never like, oh, there's this big conspiracy that's happening where it's gonna like unfold in each episode. No, it's just like, that's just the conceit for the series.
God, it's very like Veronica Mars. Like you get back to the big mystery at the end.
But even then, no, there's no big mystery. It's just a case of the week
It's
series.
just episodic, yeah. No, he's calling back to like Columbo or Mannix or one of those shows, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they have a big origin story, but other than that, like it's case of the week. Which is so much fun. And because it's Peacock and it's Rian Johnson, and it's elevated, that means you get guest stars like Lorel and Hong Chow, and Benjamin Bratt and Adrian Brody, like there are Dasha Polacco, like there are big guest stars who will do like the one episode of this TV show. And it feels like an old, like those old Columbo, like the other crime shows when you would see like big like movie stars or something like appearing in like one episode of this crime show.
No, and it's really fun guest star appearances. Like I feel like the idea of guest star on a drama turned into SVU, where it's just they're a cross-eyed pedophile and they're out here to get an Emmy. But in that case, it really featured them, and they got to be really pop and have fun and be sinister.
Right, it should be fun.
Yeah.
Your Friends and Law and Order ruined guest stars on TV.
Totally. To say nothing of Cynthia Nixon's deserved second Emmy and Margaret's Emmy. But no, I'm very excited to see this. Also, again, it's just obviously everybody knows this about Rian Johnson, but just that we have somebody that is so honoring an obsession with particular and kind of bygone genres of the past and finding a way to update them. I mean, it's just awesome. It's like I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah. All right. When we're back, we'll be joined by Xosha Roquemore to discuss her latest film, Who Invited Charlie? Our guest today is always the funniest person in the room. You know her from stealing every scene in The Mindy Project, I'm Dying Up Here, and Black Monday. And now you can catch her in the touching pandemic comedy, Who Invited Charlie? Please welcome to Keep It, Xosha Roquemore. Hi.
Hey.
How are you? I feel like I haven't seen you in a minute.
In a minute, I know. I feel like the last time I saw you might have been at the Sorry to Bother You premiere.
Yes, the premiere.
Yeah. I'm like, we used to see each other so much more before I was like a mom. And we would just like go to brunch and just do fun things.
I know, but motherhood.
Motherhood, it robs you of free time.
I keep losing friends to this. Like I never thought it would happen to me, honestly. Like a lot of people, like I'm in my mid 30s, and now people are doing it. Like because it didn't happen in my 20s, I just was in denial that it would ever occur.
Right, and now they're dropping like flies.
Yeah, I'm all alone over here. You know what I'm saying?
But no, it's always exciting to see you in something too, because I always feel like, I know you personally, and I just feel like you are so funny, and I feel like that really just sort of translates to your presence on screen, and I just sort of like want to know, like, what is it about when you take on like a character that just sort of allows you to be like, just feel like yourself, really, but also different in every role, but it really just sort of takes on this sort of just like sweet, like funny, welcoming quality.
Oh my gosh, thank you. That's like the kind of stuff that I'm honestly just, I guess, still learning about myself as a performer. Like when I like read a little review or just the more work I do, I'm starting to be able to identify what it is that I specifically bring. I feel like early in your career, you're just trying to get in where you fit in. And just trying to be booking, and so like you're just kind of like doing whatever, but like as I kept going, or I've gotten like offers for things, I'm like, I think I'm authentic. I think that's what it is. I think it's the authenticity. I'm a Sagittarius, sun and rising, so like I'm just authentic as hell, to a fault probably. But But I think that is usually what I try to bring to characters in the roles. And I think that is usually the through line. Even though every character is different, I think that authenticity is what shines through.
In this movie, Who Invited Charlie, you're with a bunch of people who, every time I see them, one, they're so funny, and two, they're like you. I feel like you could just put them in any movie, and I'm like, oh, thank God they're there. They're like, I immediately identify with them. They bring it. Super watchable and super grounded. All of these people are really grounded. It's Adam Pally, it's Reed Scott. How did you feel working with this ensemble of people?
Oh my gosh, I was so excited. Honestly, all of my scenes were just with Pally. So I'm just like, I'm happy to be in the movie with those other people, but I only got to work with him. And I was so excited about that because he's so good. He's so funny. I've learned so much from him when I was on the Mindy project with him, just about like how to not be afraid to like take up space and like do your thing. And yeah, he's a master improviser and a cool friend. So I was just really happy to be there and just get to like act with him. It was so easy.
That is funny because I sort of like forgotten that he was on the Mini project for a bit, and then it also reminds me of like I met you like when you were doing the Mini project. And what do you think has been your takeaway from the show now as part of your career? Just because it's so interesting that everybody's been talking about it again now since it dropped on Netflix. And then when you were doing it before, but it was like on Fox. So like people were watching it before it went over the Hulu. So like what has been your takeaway of like that character? Like have people had like weird responses to it now that they've been able to revisit it?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I've learned that it's like a lot of people's comfort show, like younger people. I still feel like it was yesterday, but I know somebody who's like 25 currently, and she's like, I grew up on that show. It's my comfort show. I was like, grew up on. That was yesterday. But like, so like that for one, that people are like watching all the episodes and loving it. So like people feel like I'm a part of their family, or just honestly, that is like the number one thing that people recognize me from, I'd say, is the Mindy Project. When people come up to me and they're like, I love your work, they're usually talking about that. So that's really cool. And I learned so much. I mean, I learned everything over there. I've learned other stuff since, but like, I learned what all the positions are, like in the crew, on set, like what the difference, like what a line producer is versus like a creative producer and writing producer. I learned that you can write your own show and be in it. Like I just, Mindy herself was such an expander, just seeing what she was doing. Everybody on there was a writer. I like learned that as a funny person, people usually want to hear what you have to say. So there's like a nice little pipeline between being a funny person and a writer. That was something I learned there. I learned so much, yeah, and then also just how to, again, take up space as a comedian, or just as like I looked at like Ike and Pally and Mindy and stuff, and they just were not afraid to improv, which is like not always the easiest thing to do when you're like showing up on set, You just kind of want to be like, I'll just say my line. But like, since we were so comfortable there and there was this trust and everybody was so amazing, like folks would just go off on these riffs and rants and they would be funny and they would like end up in the show. And so like every self-tape I do now, every audition, I'm always improvising. Like if I'm not, that's deep. Like, I mean, like I'm, I'm reading from Aaron Sorkin or something, But like,
I think he can use the improv people more than anybody. You should keep doing, in case he ever comes calling. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Some people you be like, let me chill out. But like when it comes to other things, especially on an audition tape, because you're like, this is my own personal one-woman show. I do what I want. Like, on the day it might be different, but yeah, I learned countless amounts of things in my years on Mindy. It was like grad school to me. I always look at it like that.
One of my favorite questions is just, so why are you funny? Do you feel you've been funny your entire life, or do you feel like something happened, you realize, oh, there's some value to being funny, and then you developed it, or were you always funny?
I always remember being funny, like just from being little. But yeah, I think I'm truthful, so I think that's what makes sometimes people funny. But yeah, I've always been, like, as my family would say, stupid or a fool. Like since I've been little, I'm like, you're dumb, shut up, like, or goofy. Yeah, and I love to get a response out of people. So I think that plays into it too.
one of my also favorite interactions with you too was we were at this RIP this Mexican restaurant. I don't even remember the name of it, Carmen's or something on the East Side.
Oh yeah.
Yes, but I remember we were there, and you had introduced me to Donald Glover that night because
Oh
he
my
happened
God,
to
we
be
were
there. Yes, and then you were in Atlanta as well. So like, what was doing your comedy like in Atlanta, or even like a Black Monday, where like you're getting to act, opposite, like you have Donald here, or you got Regina, Don Cheadle there, like this is like a different kind of comedy that like with Black folks doing like a newer thing than opposed to like network sitcom.
Right. Well, Atlanta was so fun and cool. We were literally in Paris. Like, honestly, on Atlanta, I didn't even like the stuff I had to say was definitely funny, but that episode was so nuts. All I had to do was just truthfully respond to like what was happening, because that episode was just like that episode was so Atlanta to me. Like, it was the most Atlanta episode of like of that season. And Donald directed it, so like he just had such a clear view of what he wanted, and yeah, I literally just had to respond because everything was fucking crazy. So I was just like responding truthfully. But then yeah, Black Monday was so fun and cool because like the showrunners and the producers of that show, they're comedy people. They're like the happy endings people. So like at the end of the day, it's kind of like the Black Monday's not a network show, but like their comedy like brains are kind of like similar to the comedy that I was used to. Like they want you to show up, they want you to have fun, they want you to bring your own thing to it. So then I had to like, take deep breaths about working with Don Cheadle because he's literally a legend and one of my favorite actors, an iconic Sagittarius. But he's another masterful improviser, and same with Regina. Like, so it was kind of like all the stuff I had done on Mindy was kind of showing up there, but just with a different kind of dialogue. Like longer chunks, more FBI, a little more wordy, but it was literally like the same vibe. Everyone having fun, people trying things. It was like Paul Scheer, like all these comedy people, like everybody there is basically like from UCB and stuff. So it was like more similar than I thought it would be, I guess.
Does working all the time change your appetite for what you watch in your spare time? Like, do you find you watch things you would maybe never be in, or like what actually occupies this part of your brain that like just consuming this stuff anyway?
Oh my God, I love that you think I'm working all the time. I got hung up there. I was like, oh, I'm never working.
It sure fucking looks like it. I'm looking down your credits. I'm like, this woman has not taken a break in 7 years.
Oh my God, I'm always on the break. That's so funny. I love that. I'll own that. Yes, I'm always working. Like, kind of. I mean, not really. I feel like I usually watch everything that everyone watches because I love to be a part of the conversation. So like, I'm definitely gonna watch anything that people are like tweeting about, unless it's just like a hard no for me. Definitely find that I watch way more TV than movies. Like, I feel like I'm such a Gen Z. I'm not. I'm so Gen Z. Like, I'm like, a movie. Like, I'd rather watch 500 hours of a television show. But yeah, no, I just try to stay in the convo, so I just like watch what everyone else watches. Usually just so I can like be like in the Twitter conversation.
Has motherhood changed like some of like what you watch though? Like, what shows do you watch? You're like, guess I'm watching this for my kid.
Oh, child, her old shows. Oh my God, she watches no offense, she watches these crazy shows. She loves like there's a show called Masha and the Bear. It's like a Russian cartoon, like on Netflix. There's like 8 seasons of it. She's obsessed. It's like a little bad Russian girl who lives with a bear in the woods, and she's just bad and always getting into trouble. And the bear is always like, oh. She's like always doing all this stuff. So like my daughter loves that. She's starting to like more like, because now that she's 5 and a half, she's like starting to enjoy like legit Disney movies and stuff. Because when they're like in that preschool age, they like these like weird like Cocomelon, like these shows that are seeing like the wheels on the bus, and it's like slow weird animation. But now she's like, she loves Moana. There's this little short film on Disney Plus called Bow, It's so cute. It's
Oh,
one with the
yes.
mother.
Yes.
Yeah, she's obsessed with Val right now. She's like, and I don't like it because it's 7 minutes long. And when I turn the TV on, I want to do stuff. So when it's over, I got to come back and do. I'm like, I don't like these Disney Plus shorts. They're too short. I use the TV so I can do my thing. So yeah, we've been fighting about that this morning. She's like, I like shorts. I'm like, you just like trolling me. But yeah, she like loves that. She's in her Disney Plus era right now for sure. And she's been binging the MCU with me as I'm like preparing for work. I'm like, I never had watched any like Marvel stuff like that before, but like been watching everything now.
You're in Captain America: New World Order now.
Yes,
So like you had
I'm
never
so
watched
excited.
Marvel before.
I'd seen a few, obviously, but I wasn't like, like going in order or like going live to see them when they were coming out. I had seen Thor. I think I'd seen Iron Man. I'd seen Black Panther, but that was about it. So now I'm on, what am I on? I start phase 3 today. I've been watching something a day. It's been so fun. So she's like, watch Iron Man with me. So now whenever like I'm in here, she hears like, he's like, are you watching Iron Man again? I'm like, no, I'm like watching something else, but she even like enjoyed that.
Now, I say this as somebody who all I do with my time is retain unimportant pop cultural information. But this world, like anything related to superheroes, if I had to start at like a square one and then I guess retain the massive storylines and also just what people feel about these movies, like what fans expect, etc. That feels incredibly daunting to me. Does it feel like a ton of homework when you're sitting there gathering all this information about, Marvel, etc.?
Not really. I think because I'm doing it like day after day, I am like deeply in it. It feels like the show where they're my friends. Like when I'm watching some of the ones that don't take place on Earth, like when I'm in Asgard with Thor or Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm like, I miss my friends. I miss the Avengers. I'm like, where's my boo Tony Stark? Where's Falcon? I miss Christopher Jamal Evans. Like I feel like I'm in it with them as if I'm like binging a TV show. So, and the cool thing is that I feel like these are big movies. They're catered toward like everybody. So
It's kind of easy to lock into them. It's not like, you're not like, what's going on? I don't understand. You're like, oh yeah, I get it.
like it's straightforward. So I've been like, I feel like a cool nerd. I like know all the Infinity Stones. I know where they all are. Like just from watching. Like,
What I love too is about it's like, like you're a comedy person, and they've been scooping up people, to be like in the world. I mean, I feel like Kumail was in his movies.
Eternals.
Eternals, right?
Yeah.
I was like, that was shocking. Like, have you talked to anybody? Who have you talked to that who's been in the Marvel like world? Just asking them for tips, or have you been like, so like link me up with your trainer so I can get these Marvel muscles?
I know I haven't talked to anyone. Like I'm keep trying to think of like who I know in the MCU. Like I know Brian Tyree Henry. I was like, maybe I should talk to him. But he's on Oscar nominated, so I was like, I feel like his phone's flooded currently. But yeah, I've been thinking about like the couple Black actresses I know in the MCU because I feel like we all know each other, even if we ain't close like that. We're all like, hey girl. So I've been thinking about. I was like, should I reach out to Tiana Pierce? Like I love it. But no, I haven't reached out to anyone, but I have just been looking, and what I love about all these movies is they love actors. Like everyone in these films is like a good actor, character actors, funny people who have been journeyman actors, just like good actors, like all our faves, like inhabiting these worlds. It's so cool.
No, I never would have guessed once upon a time that like Elizabeth Olsen would be like starring in these kinds of movies, but it is fitting. Like they bring something to these movies that makes them great.
Great taste, Marvel casting. Like I'm obsessed.
You've actually done like most genres already. Is there something you haven't done yet that you're waiting to do?
I guess
this what I'll be entering into.
I guess you're starting that.
I've never been I've never been in anything like action, I guess. No. But yeah, I've definitely done like TV, film, drama, comedy.
Have we done horror?
horror. No, I haven't. Oh man, I love horror movies.
Like
I haven't. I ain't done nothing scary.
Is that something that you find that even like when you talk about things you get offered and stuff, like have people reach out to you for those and it hasn't been the right project, or like do you feel like people see you for like comedy things mostly?
No, well, I haven't been offered any horror films. Yeah, because I would be all over that. I mean, especially if it's like tight, you know. But I have auditioned for a lot of them, and not gotten them. But been like, man, I could be in that. But yeah, I
auditioned for Megan.
Oh, you did?
Whoa.
For the lead role. I was like, she gonna be black. They love to, no shade, but they love to play like somebody's gonna be black when we know they.
Oh, that's their favorite game. Because I was like, look, if I would have been the black, now everybody, now it's a black movie. Megan Black,
right. I was like,
parents are black, everyone's black.
Because it changes so much if the Allison Williams character isn't just this white woman. Because if you were her, then who would they?
It changes so much.
I'm imagining Megan being like a black doll now, which
right.
would.
I don't hate the idea. I mean, I don't hate it.
That's Megan too. That's Megan too. That's Megan 3 in the hood.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my God. Same choreography though, because I was like, that was my favorite part.
I feel like there's a lot of stuff like that I auditioned for, and I'm like, no, y'all know that wasn't gonna be black. What were y'all doing? Just collecting tapes? I auditioned for White Lotus. I had just watched that for White Lotus to be. I don't know none of the characters. I'm like, wow, I'm not knowing character's name, to be the other couple who was with Aubrey Plaza, to be the wife.
Megan Fahey, yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, who was so good. Loved her, and I was like, wow. What? Hey, maybe
in some alternate universe, but but she was great in that, and I loved that. I loved White Lotus so much, season 2. But yeah, I just be looking at the stuff I audition for sometimes when it come out, and I'd be like, okay.
And obviously this is no shade, because like I said, I thought she was so good in it and so pretty and blonde. Probably my favorite parts of the show.
When everyone's invited to audition for things, and then there's the idea of, is this really just the casting director like casting a wide net so they can say we cast a wide net, or are they actually going to be like, well, let me put somebody up in this? Because, I've been on the other side too of like castings for like shows and stuff, and you hear them talking about it, and I'm like, you're not casting. Like, because in the room they've been like, this is a Meg Ryan type, so why are you looking at Alfre Woodard?
Right, I'm dead. And it has to make sense for the story, because once I watched season 2, I was like, that wouldn't have made sense. That man's not married to a me black woman, like, like I'm like, the world that they're in, what they were talking about, the way that they said that, that they were like, oh, there are like token white presenting ethnic friend couple, like that, none of that would work like with the actual story that was on the page. So sometimes I'm like, maybe they're just being pretty and they just want to give everyone a chance.
I would say, and specifically on that show, the storyline has to do with a kid that might not be his or something. I just feel like it would play out differently. It's like
exactly,
strange,
It doesn't go with the story. Yeah.
Ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fascinating. I really have never considered that, like, oh, you would go in for like a giant role and then, something else is going on, or like this isn't feasible or whatever.
Right. I know. More on that. I'm like, I could talk all day about what I've auditioned for.
By the way, an underrated ensemble you're a part of is the show I'm Dying Up Here, including because Melissa Leo is one of the fascinating actors who've ever lived. She came up already this episode because we were talking about strange Oscar campaigns. What was it like working on that show, which, by the way, was chock-a-block with guest stars?
Right. Oh my God, it was so fun. I actually was working on that right after I had my baby. She wasn't even 1 yet. It was like after I had a baby, I just started working. It was so bomb. Like, and I think it's because Mindy project had ended too, so I was like freed up to do a lot of stuff. But yeah, I had so much fun on that because it was like about comedians, but it was a drama. Like there's like hour-long drama show and in the 70s, and the ensemble was, everyone was so cool. I loved working on that, honestly. I loved getting to play a stand-up comedian because it's always been like a secret dream of mine. So getting to like, have a fake set and like perform it in the 70s. Hair was bomb on that show.
Like, yeah, I just loved everything about it, and the whole cast was so awesome.
What was it like even performing like I guess you would call it like a fake stand-up set? Because I feel like the thing whenever you watch stand-up things, and not I'm dying out here, which I thought was great, but like there's so many things where you watch it, like you see the person doing stand-up and you're watching it and you're like, well, that's not actually funny. So,
Right.
you know, the audience laughing at it, it's like, what are we doing here? But what's it
I
like
know.
shooting a fake stand-up set and then the reactions to it? And like, were you working with like the comedy or stuff with the creators? But then I also feel like it's 70s, it's period, so it's not like, you know, like that's more like Miss Maisel, you know, that opposed to like you doing like a current show where you're a stand-up.
Right. No, I mean, honestly, on the show, I think I had one moment. It was like my introductory episode of me where I got to do like my bit. And then otherwise, it was she was doing the same act, obviously, like as a comedian does, like her same material. But I thought it was so funny. It was actually the audition material too. I had to like do the set, like that was the audition, and I was like, this is so funny, like for the 70s. So I was like, she's a cutting edge comedian for back then, like. Yeah, I thought it was great, but that show was really collaborative in that way. Like they were very open to listening to what all the actors had to say, especially because we had like Santino was there, like who's an actual stand-up, so like he would help and like punch things up. Like everyone was allowed to like contribute in a way. But honestly, I don't think I had to like even change anything in mine. It was good as it was. I was able to just perform it. It was so fun though. I was like nervous though, like I was actually doing stand-up because like all the extras and like I was like, I fucked the bum today. I was like, but it was so fun. I loved it. It was like all my stand-up dreams come true through her, through Dawn.
And good Lord, was it more convincing than still the definitive stand-up movie, which is Punchline with Tom Hanks and Sally Field. I just, as an anthropological experiment, watch this movie and you will simply not believe that it exists.
I've never even seen that. I'm just thinking of like fake stand-up, like or like written on TV, or thinking of obviously Chase comedy concert from and just like that. Like I think that's the last one I've seen of like fake stand-up on TV.
Right, yeah. I guess like the opening of certain Seinfeld episodes, etc. You know.
Oh yeah, well, but obviously that's gonna be he's probably writing those, so you're like
right.
You know, I'll say one of my favorite fake stand-up scenes is, and it's so stupid. It is still the women be shopping in Nutty Professor.
Yeah. That disaster is spooky. Oh my God, I still have PTSD from the whole scene. Like an evil roast comic.
Yes, like that was really just like that era too, where like you did not want to like go up into stand-up comedy because if they see you, it was like a shark with blood in the water. It's like that era of just like I'm gonna roast people in the room was. I'm glad I did not live through that era of stand-up comedy.
Same, I would not have made it. It's like, oh man, look at him. He's like, I don't have to go to the bathroom. I was like, oh my God. And it was really sad. Jada was humiliated. I was like, oh Lord, this is like stressful.
Well, Xosha, it is so good to see you.
Yes, you too.
What a blast. And you're so good in this movie.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I haven't seen it. I can't wait to see it.
Well, the one thing I'm waiting for now is to have Xosha up in a Megan sequel. So, or if not,
the seed has been planted.
If not a Megan sequel, like you know, Hollywood likes us knock off. So let's get you and the Black Doll. Okay, like we need it.
Oh, Dad, that would be so fun.
That Black American girl doll, you know, the ex-slave. I'm sure she's got a lot of anger.
Addie, she's sitting right back there. There's a couple of them, right? My daughter got Addie, Lakia, and Julia.
Who Invited Charlie is in theaters and on demand February 3rd. When we're back, Ava Max and Sam Smith's new albums. Are they giving the gays everything they want? We'll find out. Louis, I kind of feel like we are part of the Ava Max fan club. Like we have official pins.
Oh yeah, on my sash, which I wear.
Yeah, with your other artist pins next to the Carpenters and Tori Amos and Amy Mann.
Yes. Wow. There's nothing left to know about me, actually. You've said all of
But Ava Max finally released her long-awaited album, Diamonds and Dance Floors. And I say long-awaited because this was supposed to come out like last year. And then it got hella delayed.
Like every album. I don't think a single album has come out on time since roughly The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Which is shocking.
Yes, and by the way, then that was the last one she put out. So that didn't even go out well.
So what do we think of the album?
Now, a lot of people will say that Ava Max feels like an AI-generated pop star, that she's the neon outline of a pop star and not, a person, and that her name, looks like a CAPTCHA, and that there's not much identity going on there. Don't need identity when you've got the Bops Girls. One at a time, each one of these, me in the car, I mean, truly I should be pulled over because it's such a good time. The new song Ghost on this album,
yes,
hitting
produced
for
by
me.
Emily K.
Who's like the reigning over music. We were just talking about Emily K with an upcoming guest that we'll be able to pimp soon. But I fucking love this album. I love the last one too. Born to the Night on that album was fabulous.
Yeah, I really think that like she's an artist who, I don't know, I think that she's really exciting. Obviously, the gaze go up for her. I'm just sort of like, what's that tipping point moment for her where, people realize that, like, this is massive pop music that's fun. I think the entire album, truly it's a no-skip album for me.
I feel the same way. I think that's her whole kind of mantra. Just like put out like fun music and that's it. You're not getting like even Carly Rae Jepsen from time to time has a ballad or something. You're not getting that from Ava Max, at least this time around. She did have one soupy song or two the last time. Mm-hmm. But no, this time it's pure. I mean, maybe you're the problem. Get me on an elliptical right now.
And I'm just also wondering, like, what the thing is about her that's not connecting with people. Because I have played Baby You're the Problem for a straight friend of mine, the only straight friend I have. And he was like, who the hell is this? And then like puts it on at parties all the time. And I was like, where was the like connecting tissue that didn't involve, me proselytizing Ava Max to people? I was like, where was the marketing and promotion that would get that song to him first?
Right. And just like with Carly Rae Jepsen, straight men in particular do like serious, like good bubblegum pop music. It's not something that you have to like trick them into liking or whatever. It's like a pure adrenaline jolt. Why wouldn't they like it?
We learned that in high school when straight people were talking about toxic more than gays because we were closeted.
Right.
So
that's right.
They were the ones openly talking about toxic, being like, this is so fucking good. I think I love a Britney Spears song.
I'm still getting over the awkward convergence of gays and straights over Since You've Been Gone. Like,
that
we
too.
all agree on this, huh? All right, fine. You're allowed to stay.
But I also think it's just because like Kelly Clarkson and Britney, like in those respects, had identities in culture.
Right.
And I sort of don't know what Ava Max's identity is.
No, and I don't think we've scratched the surface because who knows if there's a surface there? It feels like a hologram. But yeah, I don't know because interestingly enough, she just like hosted something at Rocco's, which is a bar in West Hollywood that Lance Bass owns, just in the middle of the day on Saturday, like during
even that
brunch.
Sentence,
right?
By the way,
but it's like, so that's where you are, huh?
Yeah.
She feels right now in that kind of Kim Petras space of everybody I know, aka gay people, know you have songs out, but you are mysteriously available, and I can watch you perform at that ATM. So I don't know what's happening right now.
Except Kim Petras has now been elevated thanks to Sam Smith and also Meghan Trainor, but we'll get to that in a moment. Yeah, I sort of feel like that's the thing, when I was describing that story earlier in the episode about, the invention of her song, right? There's also that thing that she used to tell people about how her, remember her asymmetric hair bob thing?
Yeah.
Like that was weird. Was that supposed to be like a connecting tissue to people to get them to chat about you?
Yeah, remember the shape of my hair? Now speak about me. Yeah, she's always seemed like a Sims avatar. Somebody in the Live and Large expansion pack who shows up for your big party, along with the fortune teller or whoever else is in that game.
And I think maybe that's sort of like the problem. And maybe we're more attuned to it because having lived in LA, you know, like when you're just around sort of like these, like the music industry, or people, you know, they'll be performing, you know, like at the bars we go to sort of get their name out there, etc. You know, there is this thing of just, you know, we're making this pop music and it's loud and it's dancing, it's for the gays, etc. And then it's just like, so what else is going on? You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because it's a kind of music that doesn't demand you know everything about their identity. You know, it's not confessional, really. So in a way, it feels like, well, she's not super obligated to like make that much of an impact on the personal front, but at the same time,
Kylie does though, because I feel like the argument.
There's a sweetness to Kylie, and I feel like there's a sweetness to Carly Rae Jepsen that people remember. That to me, that's like that's just like a slight element of a soul there.
Because the argument against Kylie has always been like, you know, non-confession, right?
Right.
Like
yeah, I don't really know anything about her. Yeah,
like secrecy on the dance floor. There's actually Kylie.
Yeah.
The one thing we know about her is she is always mad at a man who is not dancing.
That is a consistent theme. Yes.
It's like every other, it's always like, get out of my way, or, you know, like, did you see me over here dancing? It's like, that is what her vibe generally is. I truly remember the reviews that came out after X, which I think is a wonderful album. And an underrated Kylie album too, I would say.
Has stood the test of time, I would say. Yeah,
there were critiques just because it was after her cancer recovery, you know, and once it was in remission. And I think she has like one song that's sort of about it, which is Cosmic, which is a fucking gorgeous song. That I feel like,
and that's still in a kind of it doesn't sound like, for example, Tracy Chapman or something. There's not like a seriousness to it.
But you like listen to the lyrics, and if you know that about her, you know, like then it will like tug at your like heartstrings, and like I've cried listening to it after when it first came out. But other than that, like there's no confession, though, you know. As opposed to when she's always compared to Madonna, you know, like Madonna would sometimes give us too much information.
Oh, every day I wake up, I have to throw the phone down. I don't want to see that. Yeah.
And now it's more because she has a phone and their social media. I mean, we probably knew a little bit less about Madonna because she had to she had to call up Page Six in like '97 or something. Like, well, this is what I'm doing.
Oh no, she had fucking Liz Smith on the dial. Yeah. Right.
And Liz is like, I'm not in today.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, I would say, like, we all love Kylie Minogue, but I don't think, you know, for instance, like the rest of my straight family or whatever knows anything really about Kylie Minogue other than like that song of hers from 20 years ago. So like gays can tap into that a little bit, but
they discovered her again during the pandemic with Magic.
That to me sounds like cruise ship music. I'm surprised people like that song that much.
Well, you know, I don't fucking like dancing.
That wasn't great either. Yeah.
You're the only one who's listened to that album all the way through.
Oh, come on. Sincerely Yours was a banger. Shelby 68. Love that song.
But speaking of someone who I feel like we know maybe way too much about is Sam Smith.
Yes.
Who, as we said, you know, elevated a similar artist to sort of Ava Max, Kim Petras with Unholy, and I also feel like that's how things like that happen in the industry. You know, Kim being featured on Unholy, and then it's #1 and it's on the charts for so long. Now people are starting to know who Kim Petras is. But Sam, what's so interesting about Sam Smith is we're not that far removed from the era where Sam was doing a lot of really weird interviews and saying a lot of like random things just about coming out, not liking Michael Jackson and other random things. And people were just sort of like, who are you?
It was like a combination of they were seemingly very honest quotes from him, and yet also a little half-baked. You felt like you weren't quite getting a fully thought out quote from Sam Smith anyway.
Yes. So that is still in people's recent memory. And now you have Gloria, the new album, which I would say for me is just kind of there.
Sure. Well, I will say this about Sam Smith. I think something that's strange about the Sam Smith story is the music is happening what you would intuitively think. Like, you're getting the dancey stuff now, and you got the really awards grabby dramatic stuff before. It's like who's ever done it in that order before? You know, usually you just do the poppy radio stuff, and then that, you know, accelerates you into being able to get the, you know, the Celine style stuff that really gets a lot of Grammys and an Oscar in this case.
And what I would also say is that the dancey stuff sort of like, unfortunately, is compared to their best dance stuff, which they did with Disclosure.
Correct. Wait, the song Sam did with Normani. That's the best Sam Smith song. Yeah.
I fucking love that song too. I wish Normani had like played in that field a bit more. That
meditative disco space. I love that. That's so
Meanwhile,
specific.
she's just lost in a cornfield, probably wished there by the kid from Twilight Zone. Never to return. And I have a lot more to say about Sam's beyond the music.
Okay.
But I'm going to save that for Keep It.
Oh, economical of you. Let's do that.
Yeah. All right. When we're back, Keep It. And we're back with our favorite segment of the episode. It's Keep It. But first of all, I realized we did not actually even fulfill what I said in the intro.
Which was?
Ava Max stands. What are they called?
Right.
Because there was this weird interview with her on the radio where she was like saying, some of my fans are calling themselves maxi pads, and I'm like, I don't think that's real. I think that's like Selena Gomez stands, like just making fun of Ava Max stands.
Right. Also, just because you heard it one time doesn't mean it should be repeated out loud. So definitely not maxi pads. I am absolutely fine with Maxinistas. 100% I am fine with that.
I need her to hear Maxinistas though, and like, you know, like really, really tap into it. Okay.
She needs to maximize the Maxinistas.
Okay. Like we tried so hard to get Little Mix to acknowledge their fans as mixologists.
Which is cute.
Yeah. It didn't work. But I guess, you know what? A lot of them were underage. So shouldn't be drinking. Don't drink, kids.
We're your DARE officers now.
To our under 21 listeners.
Stay in school.
Louis, what's your Keep It?
I think my Keep It is to the fact that we were due for a new body swap comedy. Just, I feel like the time is now. It's been a few years. The definitive ones are now like 20 years old. You know, 17 again didn't really stick. But now the one we're getting is a body swap comedy, and it involves Julia Roberts and Jennifer Aniston. Now, I am not seeing the cinematic value in watching those two people switch bodies, much as I love them both. And if we're going to put Julia Roberts in a new movie, I'm sorry, there's one mode in which I appreciate Julia Roberts most, and I hope you will pardon my French. As you know, I'm not a profane person. But Julia Roberts needs to be playing a fucking cunt. Because she is deliciously cunty in her best movies as of the past 15 years, including August Osage County. I want her to be intimidating, mean, and absolutely obliterating people with one-liners. Like Erin Brockovich, that should have been just the beginning of that segment of her career.
My best friend's wedding. I will honestly say that is the problem with Ticket to Paradise. She's not enough of a bitch.
Right,
it's sort
please.
Of like he's the asshole and they sort of hate each other, but I also feel like that movie never really commits to the idea that these two hate each other.
Right. There was so much potential there for them to be like really vicious with one another, but the movie was very neither here nor there. Like I don't remember almost a thing about it.
Yeah, but it was successful, and I feel like this whole idea now that we're going to be getting, because I've seen this from like the Deadline articles for the body swap comedy, is that studios are looking for two-handers now.
Yes.
They're looking for
I
like 2
respect
stars. And I love that era of cinema. Like we just brought up Punchline, right? Like give us 2 stars, put them in a movie together. That can be really fun. But yeah, a body swap, unless it's a mom and a daughter, like Lindsay Lohan, Jamie Lee Curtis, iconic remake of Freaky Friday.
Yes.
You need something that's going to be like a little different. And I guess like Julia Roberts could play a bitch in this. Jennifer Aniston could be like the sweet, like the good girl.
Yeah.
As she was in The Good Girl,
Oh,
written
yeah, I
by
remember.
Mike White. But there's really not that much of a difference between, like, there's just 2 white women.
Right. Which, that's my own screenplay in the drawer, 2 white women. So you can't have that. So stand back.
Easy sequel potential for you in those movies, by the way. It's 3 white women.
Yes,
4
right.
white women. 4 white women at a funeral.
Well, that sounds like a great time. But I am looking forward to like a Jennifer Aniston cinematic renaissance. I think she has fun when she does a movie, even when she was in that like Adam Sandler murder mystery boat thing. I thought she was fun in that.
I love a murder mystery, and I saw that they're making Murder Mystery 2, and now I'm like, do I need to watch Murder Mystery 1? Would I enjoy it?
I think it has its moments. I mean, like, she is so winning. I mean, also, just that kind of star where you know exactly what you're going to get. Even if she was in, like, a hard drama, there's something about Jennifer Aniston that's so dependable. She's so, like, in her own skin, just that thing, that it's a pleasure. I was never a Friends stan, so I can never kind of claim her as somebody I'm, you know, like a number one fan of. But I do like the fact that she was almost a Saturday Night Live cast member and turned it down for Friends. Like, that kind of tells you all you need to know. You know, she's game for whatever whiz bang.
I love that. Honestly, I loved her in We're the Millers too. I thought she was fucking great. That movie deserves more. I'm always gonna mention how much I found that movie hysterical. One thing I do find funny about this, though, is you think of the Friends era, right? As huge and popular as that era was, and she was like one of the highest fucking paid people on TV, right?
Right.
You know, in the 90s, Julia Roberts would never do a movie with Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, absolutely
A
not.
TV
No,
star?
please. No, she would gag. She would just,
Yeah.
she would simply spit. I think there was a resentment in the 90s to how popular TV stars were getting. Do you remember when Juliana Margulies was on our show and she was talking about how she did a movie with Glenn Close, Paradise Road, and Cate Blanchett's in that movie, and everybody recognized her when they were filming and not Glenn Close.
Yeah.
I mean, something is wicked about that. Something's wicked. Yeah.
But Jennifer Aniston is also one of those interesting people in that in her marriage to Brad Pitt, she then was elevated to the A-list circle without necessarily being A-list for roles. I feel like people would make drags about her like still being like a TV actress when she would do movies, but like she, for all intents and purposes, became A-list when she was with Brad Pitt.
It happens sometimes. Again, I unfortunately have already used my allotted Madonna reference this episode, but when she married Sean Penn, that is the moment when like the superstardom thing occurred. Like, she had a number one hit before that, but there's something about like a marriage that cements, namely, a female star in people's minds. I think that's even true of Angelina Jolie, who had, you know, the Tomb Raider movies before she was married to Brad Pitt, or before she was with Brad Pitt, and had an Oscar or whatever. But then this is what like took her to the place of unavoidable Liz Taylor type star.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that before. Like, the tabloids really push like people. I mean, I don't think there's any as messy as the whole Dunkin' Donuts pandemic strolls with Ben Affleck era of Ana de Armas' life was. I don't think she's nominated for Blonde, and we're even talking about it that much if that relationship hadn't happened.
Right. No, I think that's true. I mean,
because now people know who she is.
Right. She was obviously in Knives Out, and she was great in the James Bond movie. But no, the Ben Affleck moment now cement her as somebody you just have to think about anyway. It has nothing to do necessarily with what movie she's in. So that adds a certain gravitas to her as a person. Almost unfortunately, I would say.
She was Selena Kyle working for Christopher Walken in Knives Out, okay? With her little sweaters and, you know, being meek. And the Ben Affleck relationship is what shoved her out of the window and let the cat start licking her face.
What kind of poem was that? Oh my God!
I was using Batman Returns as an analogy.
Yes. No, I was envisioning it. Yes, I heard you. Ira, what's your keep it?
My keep it goes to the conversation surrounding Sam Smith and their body.
Oh, and the outfits. Yes.
Yes. So in the Not Here to Make Friends video, Sam Smith is wearing this corseted outfit. And of course, there's been a lot of hate from the conservatives and the right, like who are like homophobic, fatphobic. We're not talking about that shit because they're obviously wrong. Like they're obviously evil, disgusting people. Like they're not even part of the conversation. Right. I'm talking about the defense of Sam Smith, which has now mounted into, well, when Harry Styles wears all these things, everyone's gagging for it. Or this muscle gay could be wearing this corset and you'd all love it. But Sam Smith doesn't get that same fervor because they have a fat body. And my argument to that is, one, shut up. Because one, stop comparing every queer person and what they dress like and what they wear and what their body looks like to fucking Harry Styles. I think it's lazy. I'm tired of Harry Styles being in the conversation. And also, we drag Harry Styles all the time.
Right.
He's dragged for what he wears all the time, like up and down the timeline. There was a thread of someone with Sam compared to this other model who was wearing this black corset at a Mugler show. People were dragging that model online too. Like it's being obtuse and ignoring recent history. And it also ignores the fact that all the images that you show in comparison with what Sam Smith is wearing in the video, Sam Smith is wearing pasties, opera gloves, this Gloria Swanson turban. Okay, it looks a mess. Even the skinny, muscly dancers behind Sam Smith look a mess. Everyone looks a mess in the video.
It's giving take off one thing before you leave the house. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Listen to the Nazi Coco Chanel. Okay.
Yes.
And I think that
listen to the Nazi.
Listen, I only love two, her and Ava.
That's right. Sonia Henney, figure skater. She had it going on too. Yeah.
And that is the point. Sometimes you can just call a bad outfit a bad outfit, And there's some people online who like to jump in with their, I love a messy queer punk look. I'm like, is that what this is? Or are you just being contrarian?
Yeah. Is that intentional there, or is it just, a little slipshod?
And do you think you're messy queer, or do you just shop at Big Bud Press?
Yeah. Also, by the way, are we done with the word messy yet? Oof. Kill me. It doesn't mean anything. It just means something isn't utterly pristine at all times. I hate people referring to themselves as messy gays. What does that mean? You tweet too much? Which, by the way, is also intentional too. Like you're obsessed with people talking about you or inserting yourself into conversation. It's not messy. It's intentional. So stop.
Gays who tweet too damn much. Let me tell you something. And I reel myself back, and sometimes I have ADD, and that's why I tweet so much sometimes. And I usually do it when I'm bored.
Okay.
I usually do it when I'm bored. You haven't worked with me for 5+ years and not known that. One thing I'll say about a person who tweets so much is that the one time it really annoys me, and this feels like another keep it,
sure,
is when someone tweets something that's so funny, right? And you actually want to find the tweet again. When you go to their tweets to their timeline to try to find it, they always end up being a person who tweets too much. So you're scrolling through
oh yeah,
you're scrolling through 500 tweets and retweets and everything before you get to the one tweet that was from yesterday.
Right. I mean, here's what I'll say just about Twitter in general, and I'm sorry to do this, years into this podcast, this super elementary conversation. When you tweet, you are saying it's my turn. So when you're tweeting, you're asking attention. There's a whole bunch of people talking, and it's your turn again. Can you just make it good and not just lowercase babbling? Can it or talking about yourself in a way that's adding nothing to a quote unquote conversation? It's like a lunch table. Speak up when you have something to contribute.
You know, we played Survivor once at our lunch table in high
Me
school.
too. I won. Can you believe it? I didn't think I had it in me.
I think I got second place, or I won. I cannot remember the end result. I do remember that we played it every day, and the first few days were dark. Because the people we voted out, I was like, maybe this is bullying.
No, Ira, I was about to say the same fucking thing. I literally remember who got like third to last place, second to last place, first to last place, and they just weren't as close with the rest of us. It is bullying. It was organized bullying.
Or you were mad at someone at that certain point, so it was like, we're all voting for this person. And then I also remember what always happens invariably with these sort of things. It's like, once we got to the end, like everyone was kind of sick of playing.
Right. And also there's no point at the end. Like, oh, you won this thing where we're all just sitting here.
Yeah, no, you won it bullying.
Yeah. Enjoy your crown of thorns, asshole.
That, by the way, when I try and think about how like gay is now, like, and everyone thinks that like they're a Real Housewife and etc. I was like, when we were younger, everyone thought that they were playing a reality competition show,
Which is the way it should have been. We've, strayed from God.
we should be snuffing people's torches out, not throwing drinks in their faces.
Oh, God, your lips to God's ears. I miss it so much. Not that we have lost Survivor in any way, shape, or form, but...
I know, but I sometimes wish that like Ultimate Girls Trip, that's what the Traitors kind of is, I guess. But I kind of wish Ultimate Girls Trip was Survivor. I want the housewives voting each other out.
I mean, that's coming soon. I think you've wished it into existence. I think some of these franchises should morph into that.
Yeah. All right, well, that's our show this week.
Andrea Riseborough, we're with you. I hope you're feeling seen.
Andrea Riseborough, I'll dap you if I pass you on the street, but that's about it. Thank you to Xosha Roquemore for joining us, and we will see you next week.